Friends, Groundhog Day is celebrated every year on the 2nd of February in America. On this day, Groundhog Phil, who lives in Punxsutawney, a small town in Pennsylvania, is taken out of his burrow. It is believed that if Phil sees his shadow, winter lasts for 6 more weeks. If he doesn't watch, spring comes early. So did Phil see his shadow in 2024? And do his predictions usually prove true? Phil hasn't seen his shadow this year, which means an early spring is expected. But will this really be true? Actually, from the point of view of science, Groundhog's predictions have no special relation with the weather. In the last 138 years, Phil has seen his shadow 104 times, which means he has mostly predicted 6 more weeks of winter. But only 40% of these have been proven correct. This means that Phil's prediction is difficult to be any more accurate than a coin toss. Regardless, Groundhog Day is a fun tradition and people enjoy it a lot. Thousands of people travel to Punxsutawney every year to hear Phil's predictions. It is a day of celebration where people eat, drink, dance, sing and joke about the weather. So, what was the prediction in 2024? Good news! Phil hasn't seen his shadow, which means an early spring season is on the way. This was really unusual as Phil usually predicts winter to last for 6 more weeks. In the last 138 years he has not seen his shadow only 21 times. But the question arises, are Phil's predictions really accurate? Scientifically speaking, no. Groundhog behavior has no scientific connection to the weather. His predictions are nothing more than coincidence. However, Groundhog Day is seen more as a cultural celebration and fun event than a weather prediction. People enjoy the forecast and use the occasion to celebrate winter or anticipate the arrival of spring. So, even if Phil's predictions aren't scientifically proven, they still provide us with a fun way to celebrate the end of winter and the promise of spring. And who knows, maybe sometimes he's right. Thousands of people gathered to watch Phil's prediction on Groundhog Day in the city of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Before the big day, famous groundhogs Punxsutawney Phil and Gobbler Knob were getting ready for their big day on the first Friday in February this year. When does spring officially start? It may feel like it, but the first day of spring is still a few weeks away. Will spring come early? Meteorologists have a realistic forecast on Groundhog Day. It may not be a federal holiday, but people across America flock to see if Phil, or their own local groundhog celebrity, sees his shadow on the same day, February 2nd, every year. Phil! 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 Chants filled the air in Pennsylvania on Friday, February 2nd, 2024, minutes before the groundhog came to light, predicting whether we would see 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring. Punxsutawney Phil cheered as he predicted an early spring for us. What is Groundhog Day? In the American tradition of Groundhog Day, the country's most famous groundhog takes a stance on the coming season. The biggest celebration takes place in Pennsylvania. Every year in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, Gobbler's Knob becomes a hub of activity for people wondering if winter is going to last a few more weeks. The festival is free and spectators can enter the grounds from 3 a.m. onwards. The Punxsutawney Groundhog Club celebrates with a talent show, banquet and display before and after the prediction. When was Groundhog Day first celebrated? According to History.com, the first Groundhog Day was celebrated on February 2nd, 1887, in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. This tradition has its roots in the ancient Christian tradition of Candlemas, when clergy would bless and distribute candles needed for winter. The candles represented how long and cold the winter would be. The Germans added to the tradition by selecting an animal to help predict the weather. But it was not the groundhog used now, it was the hedgehog. After coming to America, German settlers in Pennsylvania continued the tradition and switched from hedgehogs to groundhogs, which were abundant in the state. How often is Punxsutawney Phil right? Well, while groundhog predictions provide a lot of enjoyment, they are rarely correct. According to the Storm Facts Weather Almanac, Punxsutawney Phil has been perfect 39% of the time since the tradition began in 1887. Phil has seen his shadow the most times, predicting a long winter 107.84% times. Friends, if you like this video, then like the video, subscribe the channel and do not forget to press the bell button. Thank you.